Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels. Today I want to talk about poetry, because it is Poetry Thursday, a wonderful day out of the week to talk about all the beautiful poetry that exists from around the world, around the weird. So today I wanted to focus on a poem about Haiti and the pride of Haitians. I am referring to Mud Mothers by Lenelle Moise. For those who don't know, Lenelle Moise is an author and a screenwriter. She's written a lot of theater pieces as well as some movies here and there. None that I don't think anyone would ever know. But she's also written a number of books and also tomes of poetry, often focusing on Haiti, sexual identity, gender, and themes of jazz and whatnot. So she's also won a number of awards for her work. So that's pretty much all I know about her. Without further ado, let's talk about Mud Mothers by Lenelle Moise. I'll read the poem, then do a little analysis, and we will move on from there. Mud Mothers. The children of Haiti are not mythological. We are starving or eating salty cakes made of clay. Because in 1804 we felled our former slave captors, the graceless losers sunk vindictive yellow teeth into our forest. What was green is now dust, and everyone knows trees unleash oxygen, another humble word for life. They took off with our torn branches, beheaded our future, stuck our breath up on pikes for all the world to see. We are a living dead example of what happens to warriors who, in lieu of fighting for white men's countries, dare to fight for their own lives. During carnival, we could care less about our bloated, empty bellies. Where there are voices, we are dancing. Where there is voodoo, we are horses. Where there are drums, we are possessed with joy and stubborn jamboree. But when the makeshift trumpet player runs out of rhythmic breath, the only sound left is guts grumbling. And we sigh to remember that food and freedom are not free. Is Haiti really free if our babies die starving? If we cannot write our names, read our rights, keep our leaders in their seats, can we be free, really? If our mothers are mud, if dead Columbus keeps cursing us, and nothing changes when we curse back? We are a proud, resilient people, though we return to dust daily, salt gray clay with hot black tears, savor snot cakes over suicide. We are hungry, creative people, sip bits of laughter when we are thirsty, dance despite this asthma called debt, congesting legendarily liberated lungs. And so that was Mud Mothers by Lenelle Moise. I just want to highlight first how it seems very similar in theme to Everything Inside by Edwidge Danticat. I read one of the short stories by her a few months ago, which I absolutely loved. And the main theme of that, and this seems to be pride in your country, but also sadness over what has developed within it. In Lenelle Moise, she reflects on how Haiti doesn't have enough, and that this isn't entirely Haiti's own fault. She says in the second verse, because in 1804 we felled our former slave captors, the graceless losers sunk vindictive yellow teeth into our forest. So one form of they managed to kick out one form of oppression, but another took its place as the colonialist, as the imperialist came in and took Haiti's resources and left them with almost nothing nearly 200 years later. You see this again in the fourth verse. They took off with our torn branches, beheaded our future, stuck our breath up on pikes for all the world to see. And that's very great with the imagery there, just showing how they were punished for liberating themselves with their future being taken away. She also says, we are a living dead example of what happens to warriors who, in lieu of fighting for white men's countries, dare to fight for their own lives. So looking out for yourself, looking out for your own country, has put them in a place where they're not quite living. They're not successful, but they're also not a dead country. They're still struggling and fighting. Another part of this that I find really interesting is there's still pride with this. Lenelle Moise says, during Carnival, we could care less about our bloated, empty bellies. Where there are voices, we are dancing. Where there is voodoo, we are horses. Where there are drums, we are possessed with joy and stubborn jamboree. And I particularly like the line, where there is voodoo, we are horses, indicating that they are lively and ready to dance and ready to celebrate. But this does come at an expense that they can't quite forget that they're hungry and they don't have enough resources in their own country. Because even when the party stops, there's the only sound you hear is that of your starving belly, which is very unfortunate. And lastly, I want to talk about how this ability to do nothing just brings them to rage and sadness, and the Haitians are unhappy about that. Lenelle says, can we be free, really, if our mothers are mud? If dead Columbus keeps cursing us and nothing changes when we curse back? We are a proud, resilient people, though we return to dust daily. Salt gray clay with hot black tears, savor snot cakes over suicide. And then, when we are thirsty, we dance despite this asthma called debt, congesting legendarily liberated lungs. Which that's a bit of alliteration that I love. Legendarily liberated lungs. It shows off the pride, but also highlights how they're kind of suffocating under all this debt and all this oppression from external sources. She says our mothers are mud, which is where the title comes from, and I think what that means is mud is made of water and dirt, and it's not very steady and still. So their mothers aren't really there; they're evaporating into thin air, possibly indicating the high death rate among women in Haiti. I could be wrong there, but again, this poem highlights the anger and the frustration, and I can really feel it, and I want things to be better for Haiti, and I hope down the road that that's able to happen, that we're able to recognize that we caused a lot of destruction to Haiti, and especially the United States and its imperialist endeavors, and the least we can do is help them get on their feet again. Anyway, so those are my thoughts on Mud Mothers by Lenelle Moise, a pretty fascinating poem, really good. I'm going to link to it in the description. Again, I noticed a lot of similarities between this and the short story collection Everything Inside by Edwidge Dantico, which I also recommend that you go and check out. Both of them highlight the sadness felt for Haiti, but also the hope that it might one day be restored to its former glory. If you read this before, if you have something to say about this poem or my review, absolutely comment below. I would love to hear from you. Let's have a discussion about this poem. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about Lenelle Moise. And in the meantime, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and muddy travels. Farewell.